Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Raptor Queens podcast, the first ever all-women podcast covering the Toronto Raptors. My name is Sarah Khalil. I'm here with my other Queens of the North, Sonali Sharma and Allison Hope. Today, finally, after 2 weeks apparently to recover, but not really because we aren't recovered, at least I'm not, we will be discussing the Raptors' elimination from the playoffs in Game 7 against Boston. If you can hear the heartbreak in my voice, it's because it's real. And of course, we will cover other things as well. For example, we will be dealing with the various meltdowns across the entire league for teams that were, supposed to be doing well and then maybe did not. Hint, hint, the Clippers. Boston, total locker room meltdown. And Tony Brothers comes up big in the Western Conference Finals. Those are just some of the fun things that we'll be discussing today. We will also, of course, be looking at the Raptors' future, various contracts that may or may not be extended, priorities for the Raptors drafts, and we will look at some of the wonderful things that have happened for the Raptors this year in terms of various awards being given out, and we will do our own very special playoff player report card. So, with all of that, let's get the heartbreak out of the way. Raptors eliminated in 7 against Boston. Ladies, we know how I feel about it. Sonali, how was it for you watching Game 7? What are your thoughts on the series as a whole? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously devastated. I think when we were going into the bubble playoffs, that was my biggest fear. I said, if there's one team that I'm really worried about, it's Boston. And that's exactly what happened. It was really heartbreaking. I mean, I think the biggest heartbreak for me was to see us go to Game 7 and then for Kyle Lowry to get fouled out of that game. Like, that was devastating. And it was just, I there are no words, Sarah. Like, I feel the same way I feel about this year, where it's like it's the longest, shortest year of my life, and I feel like this was the longest, shortest season of basketball that I've experienced with the Raptors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to go through the whole season, of course, and then basically have your first round kind of not even count. It was so easy. And so then your actual playoff round that was difficult just was 7 games and that's it. And then the whole season wraps up in 7 games. It's just crazy to think about playoffs that way. Allison, your thoughts?
So being a pessimist sometimes has its advantages. And I do remember saying back in February that I thought this was not a team that was going to go deep. However, I'm surrounded by a whole lot of optimists. So Game 7, I was actually hopeful. I allowed myself to dare to dream. It's quite disappointed, of course. We took it to 7. Those guys, I hate to use a sports cliche, but they left it all out on the court. I also left it all out on the metaphorical court. I went to bed having to be up at 4:30 in the morning and was unable to sleep all night. So I was up for 41 hours. So it was a long 2 days. But I come away from this maybe a little bit more optimistic than both of you. They did really well, and I see some silver linings here. I think they overachieved in a way, and I think that the expectations on Pascal were just too much. Like, from a fan perspective, I'm sure he had his expectations of himself, and I know we'll get into all this, but I see good things ahead. Like, I'm not crushed.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering we had, going into the bubble, there was even the whole conversation around a lot of our guys maybe not playing, such as like Freddie VanVleet and Norman Powell, and even just seeing them go through all of this sort of psychological and like the kind of like, it was a very trauma informed play, right? So I don't know. I feel like we had big expectations and now everybody has like a very short-term memory. It's like, okay, we lost game 7 and now boo-hoo and let's focus on the negative. So I kind of like what you're saying, Allison, that you are being more positive coming out of this. And I think at the end of the day, going forward into the next season, I think that was a really good loss compared to a lot of the other losses in there. Yeah.
Like the Clippers game 7.
Yeah. Well, even the Bucks, right? That was
oh God, yeah. How can we forget about them?
Yeah, that's true. I think that part of the joy of being a sports fan and also the sadness of being a sports fan, I don't know. I was talking to my friend about this, that I feel like being a sports fan, specifically for one team, is a little bit like being in practice for like romantic relationships, where you have to like open your heart in order to fully experience the relationship, right? You have to actually open your heart to that, but like know that that could come with heartbreak and sadness. But the great thing about sports is, at the end of the day, it's just sports, and you move on and you keep going, and it's okay. But that's, I don't know, I just thought that was really funny. It's like, this is like, in order to be a sports fan and really get into it, you have to be willing to have your heart broken pretty much every year.
Except last year.
And then it was worth it, right? Like, it's just so worth the joy that you get to experience when it all works out. So yeah.
But I just want to say, like, we should be so proud of this team. Nobody was having locker room tantrums with the press outside the door. Everybody was talking to the media like professionals and speaking sincerely and from the heart. This is a really professional bunch of guys. They played with pride. Like, they have nothing to hang their heads about. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, and just like the yeah, like you know, a lot of the episodes that we did going into the bubble, like bubble tea, was that yay, there's no Raptors tea to report on. Everybody's good. Nobody's testing positive for COVID. Nobody's leaving the bubble to go get chicken wings at a strip joint. Like, we have a team that is very like driven by integrity.
100%. Yeah, so on that note then, let's consider some of the amazing things that happened this year, and including Pascal Siakam. So this year, Pascal Siakam, last year he won Most Improved Player. This year, he came in 10th in MVP voting and was named to the All-NBA second team. This is an amazing trajectory for Pascal Siakam. Okay. Yeah, so that's a big deal for Pascal. So thinking about that and big picture, his regular season and his playoffs, Allison, what grade would you give Pascal Siakam this year?
I would give him an A, even though I'm sure he was disappointed in his play in the playoffs. He sure hustled on defense. He was all over the floor. He was contesting. He was making smart reads. He was flying out to contest corner threes. That requires a lot of energy. So on the whole, yeah, I'll go with an A for him.
Okay. Sonali?
Yeah, I was going to say I started off with an A, but then I went to an A minus. Just looking at his record, I mean, he was averaging 22.9 points a game, 7.3 rebounds. I think he had a 35.9% average shooting from the 3-point range. I mean, to think of him as like in the year leading up to this season, as being sort of a role player towards in conjunction with Kawhi, I think he has come up quite a bit. And what is he? I think he's 26 years old. So he's got a lot of game time ahead of him. Yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna give Pascal an A minus.
Yeah. So this one for me was a little bit tough, only in the sense that, okay, when I think about the expectations and what this season was for, I think it is reasonable to give Pascal an A. The season was for his development as the number one player. And I think part of the development of a number one player is to be planned for and defended heavily in the playoffs, and then learning from that experience, coming back better the next year. So I think as far as his development year went, this was exactly what we wanted, and so you give him an A. If I was to say, compare him to other players around the league who are getting deserving of A's just based on sheer talent, I don't know that I would give him an A. For example, I think that Jason Tatum, his talent on the floor in that series was just outstanding. His shooting is so beautiful. He's able to create amazing offensive plays, and even in the face of some spectacular defense, he just is. It's just his talent is very obvious. So when I look at it from the perspective of talent, I don't think that I would give Siakam an A. I think I'd give him a B+. So on that, I'm going to average at the A- level, and that's my report card score for Siakam. Okay, let's move to Marc Gasol. Allison, will you start us there?
Oh boy, I honestly think that 10 months of basketball at the highest levels, the NBA championship and then the Euro championship, the FIBA, I think that took any gas that was left in his tank out. He just didn't have much to give. And then with that lingering hamstring injury, I think it's just a function of his age. We can't ignore the fact that he helped us win a championship, and he essentially negated one of the most powerful big men in the league, Joel Embiid. He basically sunned him. So he's a proud veteran. We can't forget the contribution he made. I'm hearing rumors that he's considering going to Europe next year. So with that said, I would give him a C for the year.
A C.
A C.
All right. Sonali?
Yeah, I think I have to kind of say the same. I think it was like a year, like the regular season was like full of ups and downs, and then his injury didn't help. And I think, Allison, you make a good point that he had such a like fruitful summer that he, there wasn't a lot of gas in the tank. And yeah, like I think regular season I would give him a C, and in the playoffs I think I would go as far as giving him a D. I was really not very impressed with Marc's performance in our playoff series. So
okay, so crazy. All right. Well, I've always been the one that's a little bit more pro Marc than everyone else on this podcast. I don't think I would definitely not go so far to give him a D. I would give a C in the playoffs. I do think his performance in the playoffs on offense was abysmal. And I mean, I said it on the last few podcasts. I just have no idea what went wrong with his shooting, but it was just brick after brick after brick, and that didn't work. 100% doesn't work. The Raptors offense requires Marc to hit shots to space the floor, and when it doesn't happen, they're actually very easy to guard, and that's pretty problematic, right? So that's not good. Of course, his defense, you still need to acknowledge and recognize what he can do defensively for the Raptors. So, it's higher there. I'd give him a B for the regular season and a C for the playoffs for a overall score of a B-. Apparently I'm doing an average of the playoffs and the regular season. But yeah, that's what I do. Okay. All right, next, let's move to Serge Ibaka. Sonali, you go first this time.
First of all, happy belated birthday, Serge. What is he, 30? 31?
Apparently 31.
Yeah, apparently 31 years old. Good for him. So I think he had quite an incredible season. I think I'm going to give him, I think a regular season I would have given him an A, and then he's also like an A- in the playoffs for me. what was it? Yeah, like I mean, he broke some great records this year in terms of his blocks. I think he was averaging like 1.3 blocks per game. Really doing well on the rebounds, and his shooting was quite incredible. I think it was like 57.3% field goal shooting from. So quite impressed with that. I think he sort of picked up the slack for Mark in that sense. And I was really impressed with him. And also the other reason why I was really impressed with Serge, and I've talked about this, it's not really related to his actual game and his play, but it was sort of the morale building work that he did during the initial sort of phases of COVID, and sort of bringing people together and the community together, and also just sort of working as an ambassador for the Toronto Raptors. And it was really quite incredible to see him, because he's so versatile in that way. He's truly a leader, and from my perspective, especially for the bench. So yeah, so I'd give him an A minus.
Okay. Allison?
So Serge has had a career year this year, and I suspect there is not much precedent for a player 10 or 11 seasons in to have a career year at this point. He's just got an amazing work ethic. And as Sonali was saying, I will point out that he also had a career year on social media, and with his Avec class and the scarves, that was a lot of fun. So for the season, I'm going to give him an A plus. And in the playoffs, when he stepped up with some very big offense and some much needed threes, I'm going to give him an A minus. He got exposed a whole lot on defense, on his pick and roll defense. But on the whole, just with his contributions, A plus for the year, A minus for the playoffs.
Wow. Okay, cool. I just really happy with an A plus for anyone on the team. I think that's great. Yeah, I will just agree. I don't think I have much to add to both of you, so I'm gonna end up with an A for Serge on the season. I think you both nailed all of the key points. All right, then the next person on our list, Fred VanVleet. Allison?
So this is difficult. I really like Fred. I like his whole narrative and what he's done with his career, being undrafted. I think I'll give him an A for the season. I'm going to give him a B minus for the playoffs. My concern with Fred is his lack of court vision and his inability to make the pass a lot of times. And I think we've got, a prototypical guard in Kyle Lowry who's always looking for the pass, who's always looking to dish. And there were a lot of possessions where Fred was getting very low in the shot clock with a lot of dribbling. And I read an article today, I can't remember by whom, and they suggested that playmaking is a teachable talent, a coachable talent. So if that's the case, I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's kind of my feelings about Fred.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, the play that's standing out to me right now, and it shouldn't be the one that's standing out, but it is based on what you just said, is I think it was like, what was it, the second last possession of Game 7 with 38 seconds left in the game or something, and the Raptors had a offensive possession, needed to score, and nothing happened on that possession. Fred was running the point, and there was nothing. There was no movement. There was no passing. I think he just dribbled the shot clock down, and it was very problematic. So I know what you're talking about in terms of court vision and playmaking, and to compare him to Kyle is probably, I mean, it's what we have to do. Kyle's special. We're lucky. But yeah, I just think that it just wasn't what we needed in the playoffs from Fred. So I'm gonna overall land at a B plus for Fred, because I give him an A minus for the season, but I'm gonna give him a solid B for the playoffs. So yeah, B+. Sonali, what about you on Fred?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. I would have given him an A- for the regular season and a B+ for the playoffs. I agree. There's just he spends too much time with the ball, and you know, Allison, I also am very. I do believe that that playmaking is a learned skill, and I think he will get better. I think he's just a little. He's learning, and one day he will be a veteran, like we see with some of these players. So, yeah. So B+ for Freddie. Steady Freddie, remain steady, consistent.
Well, speaking of consistent, the next player on our list is Norm Powell. I think I want to go first on this one because you know that I love Norm so much. So, but what happened in the playoffs? I'm so sorry. Like what we really, really actually needed from Norm was not provided on a consistent basis throughout the games. Yes, in game 6 and double overtime, he showed up. That's cool. I was really good glad that we got to force a game 7. But like the ceiling that he seemed to break through during the regular season in terms of consistency and being named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week and averaging 30 points a game that week, where was that in the playoffs? Now, I don't want to be too harsh because I really actually do think that the break and the bubble and a global pandemic and all of that messes with people. So I will always, for every single player in the entire NBA, I'm going to have a lot of space for the possible impact that that's having on their games and their mental states. But yeah, when it comes to just a straight up report card on this, I would give Norm, I'd probably give him a B+ for the regular season, but I would only give him like a B- for the playoffs. So I'm gonna land on a B for Norm. Sonali?
Yeah, I mean, starting like going into the playoffs, I would have given Norman a solid A, just because I feel like he saved our regular season. But going into the playoffs, yeah, I really wanted to see more of Storm and Norman and We the Norm and Playoff Norman and whatever else you wanted to call him, and it was kind of disappointing. I mean, it was great that he had such a great game in the Celtics series, but that wasn't enough. And so, yeah, he would have landed at a B+ for me as well too.
Okay, Allison?
For his regular season, I think I'd have to give him an A, considering what we've seen from him in the past few years, just with his lack of consistency. He really seemed to look like he was starting to put it together this year. He was a legit scoring threat off the bench, and he was a real offensive spark. And I think it was the week in February that he was named Eastern Conference, or was it maybe the week before? Yeah, it was the week before they called an end to the season. Eastern Conference Player of the Week, I think averaging 30 or 31 points. So I give him an A for that. However, his play in the playoffs, I'm going to have to give him a C. We saw again the inconsistency, mostly. I mean, he had 2 big games against the Celtics, and he was kind of a defensive weak link for them. And I think I've pointed that out in the past. So I'm going to give him a C for the playoffs.
Okay. All right, let's move to our last couple of players here. OG Anunoby. What do you guys give him for the season? Sonali, we'll start with you.
So I gave OG an A overall. I'm a huge OG Anunoby fan. He's a young budding star. Had a remarkable regular season, and then he was a real impact maker during the playoffs as well too. I mean, this young man is going to be an elite defender, not to mention he is hilarious. on the court and off the court with his antics. We've seen some really special things happen with him during the season, and in the bubble as well too. You know, I'm not sure, like I guess one of the things that I'm kind of concerned about, and I don't know if you ladies are concerned about this, is, you know, I don't want us to like delay on his extension. I think that OG is like a real asset for Toronto, and I hope that he stays with us for a couple of years. So, yeah.
Allison?
Good point about the extension, Sonali. That should definitely be, I'm sure it's one of Masai's priorities. So I give OG an A+ for the year, considering what a terrible year he had the previous year. I think to start off with, his dad died, and then he had a concussion, and then the appendectomy, just a terrible year for him. And he looked, he's obviously put that behind him. He just looked great this year, and especially on the offensive end. I mean, we know his defense is elite. Well, I mean, we know that as Raptors fans, but apparently the people that vote on the NBA all defensive teams don't know that. He's really started to show some creation off the dribble. He's always had the ability to cut to the basket and make himself available, like in the dunk spot. He's pretty solid from corner threes, and a couple times this year he hit threes above the break. So that was a nice development to see. And I know we devoted a segment probably back in February to his ceiling, and I said I saw him as a double-double player. And I haven't seen anything to change my mind about that. And how can you not love a guy that hits the shot with 0.5 seconds left, walks off the court, doesn't break stride, doesn't crack a smile? I mean, that guy, he's something else.
100%. OG Anunoby, I also give him an A+. I think he exceeded every expectation that we had for him this year and opened the door for what's next to come for him offensively and fitting into the Raptors offensive scheme. But everything that he was supposed to do this year, he excelled at 100%. So I'm on board. To me, I'm just like, yes, whatever it takes to get OG on your team. That every team should be fighting for OG, in my opinion. He's so good, and he's just only got potential going forward. All right, that brings us to our last player that we are going to cover for today, Kyle Lowry. Allison, why don't you start us off, because we know how you feel.
Well, it's pretty simple. 6-time All-Star, NBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, leader of the team, a heart as big as Canada, A+, A+.
Get that statue.
Get that statue.
Oh yeah, and Hall of Fame candidate as well, first ballot.
Boom. Yep. Okay. Allison, you speak for all of us, I think. Sonali, did you have anything you particularly want to say?
I just want to say that, like, no one can mess with that caboose.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so all of that has happened. We've given the players the report cards. Excellent. Now we're looking at the future of the Raptors, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but we've got Nick Nurse. He officially extended his contract this week. That's great. Masai has still not had his contract extended yet. In a press conference, he said that the other priorities before addressing his contract were Bobby Webster and considering a couple other players, including possibly Van Vliet. He also said that flexibility in 2021 is important, of course, because Giannis is a free agent, and that there is also a priority for the Raptors around big men. There have been some rumors that Montrezl Harrell is interested in joining the Raptors. So that's the free agent from the LA Clippers, big man. And there's also a question of who the Raptors are going to draft and what they need in a draft. So there's a lot to consider as far as their future. Allison, where do you think the Raptors need to either draft or trade? What holes do you think they need to fill at this point?
So I really think at the center position, I have heard sort of a lot of credible rumors about Mark going off to Europe. I mean, who knows? But regardless, even if he stays, there's still a hole there at center. I mean, Serge is undersized for a center in some matchups, so I'm not sure, and I don't think Chris Boucher has the size to deal with some like with Nikola Jokic. Like, so they're going to need some depth there. And the other thing, so Kyle's under contract for another year. Fortunately, that was excellent foresight by Masai. But I mean, I think we're going to have to look at getting like a dynamic playmaking point guard who can also shoot. I mean, those are pretty much requisites for a team that's looking to go deep. This is the pace and space era. And the other thing is a little bit of length at the point guard position would be nice. I mean, and no criticism of Kyle and Fred, but we're so used to having sort of undersized guards. And you really saw the limitation of that against Boston's length. I mean, there were other problems, but that was definitely a factor. So if we could find someone in the mold of Kyle Lowry, once again, I'm being a Kyle Lowry stan, but with size. And I just wonder, like in our draft, so we have a first round and a second round. I think we pick 29th position in the first round. I think just my intuition's telling me if Masai goes out and drafts a point guard, we're probably looking at signing Fred VanVleet and then trading him through the season. That just the hunch I have.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Molly, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think we need a big dude. Like, we definitely need someone bigger. I, like you, Allison, have been reading about Marc Gasol and possibly going to Europe. It just makes sense. Yeah, we need a response to. We need someone who can do the sort of step back three magic that Jason Tatum is pulling for Boston. So, and I think that goes to your point of saying, Allison, about we need someone with length. So, yeah, I actually didn't realize, like after watching the series with the Celtics, like our guys are quite small in comparison to some of the teams out there. So a bigger Kyle Lowry sounds like a good plan. So yeah, those are kind of the things to watch out for. I mean, one of the other things that I've been thinking about is that, you know, the regular season was a really good, it was like a good sort of showcase of some of the bench players and really up the value of certain players like Chris Boucher, for example, because of all the injuries that we had. And I think that hopefully, and I'm pretty sure Masai is going to think about this, is like using that to his advantage and sort of seeing what we can do. I mean, I don't think we're going to get another Kawhi Leonard. I don't think we have the affordability for that, but I think there could be some dynamic moves. And yeah, that's interesting about Montrezl Harrell as well too. Is he the same guy that started following the Toronto Raptors and like unfollowed his own team? Yeah. So Montrez.
Yeah. Okay. For me, one other area that is not just point guard, it's just guard generally. I know that there are a lot in development. Like we've got Terrence Davis, there's Matt Thomas, and then Pat McCaw. And what I started thinking about during the playoffs is like, okay, we have Fred and Kyle. They're your 1 and 2 in terms of your guard position. And if Pat McCaw was healthy, he'd be your third. And I just don't think that's good enough. So I think more depth is needed there. I am very curious to see what happens with Paul Watson Jr. He showed some very interesting potential, and yeah, I can't wait to see how that develops. You know, and then at your 3 and 4 position with Pascal and OG, that's solid. Especially if you lock in OG, you know that that's who you're building on going forward, and I think that's great. Rondé as your backup to come in and play at hustle defense when those two guys are resting, I think is okay. That said, he contributes very little offensively in terms of playmaking. He's a good offensive rebounder. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know, which is like where I'm coming from. But I would like the guard position to be a little bit more shored up.
I'd like to see Rondé back. I think he has a really good attitude. He's a nice fit, and he's a real spark off the bench. And to your point, Sarah, about Paul Watson Jr., what we saw of him, the small glimpses, very impressive. Nice length, nice, very quick first step, and his offensive decision making was solid. So, I mean, I want to say he's 6'6". I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a very nice compliment to Kyle.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's 6'6". And I just realized I forgot about Norm in the guard position. Of course, there's Norm. I don't know. For some reason, the guard position still felt really thin to me. Maybe because Norm wasn't performing as well as I would have wanted. Yeah. Okay, great. So that covers that. Let's move into, very quickly, some bubble tea. It's more like tea time because the Raptors aren't in the bubble anymore, but there's a couple things going on for the Raptors. So tea time, Sonali.
Well, I mean, we've got, most of the tea is around, I guess it's more sort of a combination of the around the league and tea because there's a lot of meltdowns, as you said earlier in the intro. But in terms of our guys, we've had a couple of things happen. I mean, was Serge Ibaka's birthday this weekend. I'm not actually I didn't really see anything in terms of his celebrations. Did any of you ladies hear anything about how Serge celebrated his COVID birthday? I think he's turned 31.
I'm sure everyone saw the video of him doing the dancing in his condo. Did you guys see that one?
Yes, I did see that one. I think that's a tradition. I think he does that. He does those sexy dance videos every year. They pop up for his fans. I mean, the other sort of news around the Raptors, I mean, not so positive, and I mean, we don't really have to get into this. Is just the sort of pushback around Pascal and just the mean Twitterati, is that what you call them? The trolls on Twitter that have been...
I think it went past trolls, right? They ended up starting a Pascal love project largely because there were some absolutely horrendous petitions. They were maybe supposed to be joke petitions. I don't even know, but it was basically send Pascal back to Africa with they were really
horrible. Yeah. And so
yeah, go ahead.
Horrible to the point that I think Masai Ujiri had to have a press conference addressing the issue, which is huge, right? And I think he basically stated the sort of just the severity of what this year has been for basketball and for the world in terms of social justice around anti-Black racism. And in light of there's just been so much that's happened with the Raptors in that sense. And I think one of the quotes that came out of that press conference was basically Masai Ujiri having to, and I think somebody mentioned this too, is that he seems to have to operate as a Barack Obama style personality and be very poised and, being a Black president of a team, of the team. He said, we all come from the same place and we all should treat each other the same way. And I don't know how else to say it. I think that's where the buck stops. regardless of how you play in the playoffs, has nothing to do with, you know, where you come from. So
I've corresponded a bit with the couple that started the Pascal Love Project, and they said the response has been overwhelming. They've got at least they have over 100 contributions, like physical contributions, and then some emails, and people from not just Canada but from other countries. So I did send in my contribution. So I think this is a great thing that they've taken on. It's just a really nice story.
And what was Allison, what was where can people find, like, if some of our listeners want to donate? Because I know you posted it in our chat group. Is there a link, or is there a website that they can go to?
I know there's a hashtag, and I'll look for it and I'll put it up on our Twitter account.
Okay, amazing.
All right, so thank you for that, Sonali. Let's move into the other tea that's a little bit more TT in terms of spilling everywhere. We have some major meltdowns, and let's start with the Boston meltdown, because I hate Boston, and it's fun to watch them melt down because I hate them. I don't know if that's clear. Anyway, so basically right now Boston is playing game 3 as we're recording right now against Miami, but they've gone down 2-0 against Miami, and there was some locker room tantrums. People locked in the bathrooms, yelling at each other, a team meeting amongst the leaders after so that they could deal with it. Allison, tell us.
Yeah, this is very satisfying to Raptors fans. So a reporter named Gary Washburn, he writes for the Boston Globe. He's their NBA writer. And he, outside of the locker room apparently, and he reported that Marcus Smart was swearing from the bathroom. Now, I don't know how you can infer that standing outside of a door, but there was quite a bit of profanity and a few personal insults thrown, apparently especially between Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown kind of stepped up to be the peacemaker, and Marcus Smart was having none of it. So, and then, as you mentioned, Sarah, apparently because they weren't tired enough from not showing up for 2 games, they had a 1:00 in the morning meeting to hash things out. So apparently everything is good in Celtics land now. They're good to go, and it's a blank page. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I know the minute we get done recording, I'm going to run downstairs and cheer for Miami, even though I despise Goran Dragic about as much as I despise any other human being. And I've got to say, this is bringing out all my petty vindictiveness, this scenario. And I'm also kind of secretly happy about Milwaukee, and I can't fathom for the life of me why they kept Mike Budenholzer. But anyway, you probably want to guide this a little bit, Sarah, so go ahead and take us where we're going.
Oh, it's totally fine. I'm just willing to watch you and listen to you rag on players who aren't Raptors players because it's fun. So no problem. Thanks for all of that. Sonali, your thoughts on the Boston meltdown? Yeah,
I mean, I don't like Marcus Smart, and we saw a lot of his shenanigans during the series. People are losing it. Like, this is the weirdest bubble NBA playoff just season we've ever seen. I mean, in what world do the top seeded team doesn't even make it, get blown out? So yeah, I am as a Raptors fan, I'm secretly happy that all of this is happening, that this petty BS is coming out. It was did you guys watch? So Draymond Green was with Shaq and Barkley and all those guys. And I think he made a comment, which I started chuckling at, because obviously Draymond Green would say this, another person that I don't really care too much about. He said, he said that basically that championship teams have this kind of drama in the locker room. So the more sort of elite of a team you are, the more chances are that you're going to have these kind of meltdowns.
Publicly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That sounds
And
for
I'm
sure reasonable.
Reggie Miller also sort of retweeted and got on that and said he agreed with that statement, which I was just like, no.
Interesting. Okay. So other meltdown in the other conference. The Clippers lost in game 7 badly. Badly. Terrible first half. Nuggets take the series. They're playing against LA right now. I don't even know. Like, how did you feel watching the Clippers collapse, Sonali?
What a cluster F.
Wow.
That's really what it was. Like, this was a team with the charisma of a freaking shoebox. That's what I'm going to say about the LA Clippers.
Yeah.
You know, here's a star. I mean, I think somebody said it, Sarah, maybe this was in one of our basketball groups. It's like karma is so interesting. I mean, here's Kawhi, you know, leaving Toronto. And I don't know if you guys heard the rumors that like he also said that he didn't think Raptors would have a chance to win another title. And I don't know how much truth there is to that statement, but it's been floating out there. But then here's somebody who wanted to go home and play at home, but then ends up having to play in Disneyland and still doesn't win a championship with his supposed best friend, Paul George, who an abysmal performance. And like, I just loved all the comments around, you know, they were already packed up before game 7 and ready to go home. And just Doc Rivers, I mean, how can you lose like 3? This has happened to him 3 times.
That's brutal.
That is, I don't get it. I don't understand. It is really sad and really unfortunate, but really fun to watch.
I was super gratified by that. And just, I've never been a Paul George fan, and I know I've said like probably a zillion times, I just never thought he was that good in the East. He's maybe a third option on a good team. And then when he went to OKC and then there was all this buzz about him, I just assumed that he made a leap. But I was right. He's not really that good. You know, I read somewhere that Kawhi had contacted other players before he contacted PG. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Like PG was his 4th or 5th name down the list. Yeah, they've sold the farm. I mean, I think I remember they don't have a first round draft. Is it till 2027? I mean, and PG said, well, it wasn't a championship or bust this year. Well, just the depth of that stupidity is just appalling. I wonder what Steve Ballmer thinks about that. Like it wasn't championship or bust. Like that's farcical. It kind of says something about the mental the mentality of that team. And I just want to say Jamal Murray, wow, you know, he's got to be in the conversation for the Lou Marsh Award. He has been spectacular.
Yeah, and him and Joker, just the team, that the dynamic duo that they are. Boys, just don't let Dwight Howard like antagonize you and intimidate you. You can do this. I'm really rooting for them.
Can you guys imagine Denver Miami final?
Oh,
that'd be crazy.
I don't know. I think Miami, they're a good team. I don't know.
Yeah, Jimmy Buckets.
I think I called like back in like the very first time that the Raptors played Miami. On the next pod, I think I said Miami's the sleeper team out of the East. They could go all the way with this because their defense is just spectacular. Just on lockdown.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think even Jade was like Miami's like the sort of evil twin of Raptors when it comes to defense, right?
Oh, so. That's right. Yeah. Can we just touch on Houston for a minute? Is anyone surprised that a team that was predicated on a 6'5", 35-year-old backup center has crashed out of the Western Conference semis? once again.
Surprise.
Not.
Time to launch, put everybody into a spaceship and launch them out to outer space. I don't know.
On a rocket?
On a rocket.
Yeah. And it's kind of unclear whether or not Mike D'Antoni resigned or was relieved of his duties. It was quite cryptic, the Houston Rockets kind of farewell acknowledgement. So I'm not sure how that was left. I guess there are teams looking at him now, though. So
yeah, apparently they're going to do a culture reset in Houston. Yeah. Well, it's great. I mean, you know, if the Raptors can't win, nobody should be able to win, in my opinion. So, I'm just glad all of this is going down and other teams are just burning. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so of the remaining teams, who are you cheering for?
Jamal Murray, the Canadian.
Allison?
yeah, me too. After last night, that was a debacle, though. The calls, you know, as you alluded to, Sarah, Tony Brothers was really the star of that game. Um, I I don't know. I guess I'm kind of cheering for Miami in the East and Denver in the West, and I guess I'd have to go with Denver.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like a team like the Lakers, like it's just too obvious. Like, I don't know. Like LeBron is just.
I've never forgiven LeBron, so he's a great player. He's a good human being, but I've just never forgiven him for the way he did the Raptors. So yeah, not cheering for him.
But is anyone cheering for Danny Green?
If he,
I am.
You are?
I'm more like playing a drinking game. Every time Danny Green gets a bucket, which is, I'm probably going to be sober for the rest of this playoff. So.
Okay. Well, that's, I don't know. I think for me, I'm just cheering for not Boston and not Miami.
Okay.
So I think I just want the West to win at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that completes I guess that completes the season. We'll be back with some off-season coverage for sure, but it completes like the Raptors season. And we want to thank all of our fans, all of you, for listening and for tuning in and being Raptors fans and hearing about what we have to say and all of these things, giving us all an outlet to talk and be passionate about this team and the players that we love and the stories of this season, which really were some of the best stories in the league. This was the most fun Raptors season, I think, ever. And just it's been great to get to be part of the Raptors media space. It's been wonderful to be one of the all-women podcasts covering this space. The fact that there were 2 launched this season, I think that is just wonderful. Shout out to Dishes and Dimes. And yeah, it's just been a ton of fun. So Allison, Sonali, is there anything you guys want to say to our listeners for joining us this season and being a part of this journey with us?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for all your love. I know we have some very loyal fans out there that have connected with us through social media, and just the opportunity to be able to love this team in this very precarious and unique time that we're living in. And yeah, it's just been a pleasure, and like to thank you to you guys, to you ladies, and to all the ladies that have been involved in this podcast. It was just really nice to have some sense of routine with the podcast to carry us through this pandemic. So I couldn't be more grateful, and I'm really excited to see what next season has in store. And I'm sure we will still be watching all the games and the finals, and I hope, Sarah, you and I can watch it together, albeit social distancing, and yeah, I look forward to everything everybody has to say, and what a crazy year. What a crazy year. Yeah.
I just want to say it's been wonderful meeting 4 bright women who are equally passionate about the game. I wasn't sure that people like me existed out there, and now I know there's a lot of us, and we're doing a podcast. It's been really fun. It's been challenging for me, being the senior citizen of the group, and I just want to say thank you guys for doing the heavy lifting of the podcast. And you know, I'm I'm just so proud of the team. It was I'm not really disappointed. I think we have a lot of things to look forward to, and the future looks very bright.
We the North.
We the North, everyone. Stay Raptors fans. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you in the off season, and yeah, it's just been great. Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.